What's up, everybody? I'm back with a new comic book review, and this one is a big event. It's like every time I do one of these reviews, just like with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Volume One comic review, this one's going to be probably just as massive. Uh, Recently, I reviewed all the Avengers film, and very recently the Infinity War and Endgame, which took inspiration from Infinity Gauntlet, and easily one of the most popular comic events in not just Marvel history but comic book history in general. And reading through this, I can see why, man, because it clearly the movies took certain liberties, but they definitely had strong um, took strong inspiration from I think Infinity War took heavy inspiration from Thanos' quest, considering it's very Thanos centered stories. But before I continue, please do me a huge favor and like this video, leave a comment, and let me know what you guys thought of with the Infinity Gauntlet story. Because the reason probably also took so long because not only I was trying to go through all the main story of Infinity Gauntlet, but I wanted to also include Thanos' quest and a little bit of the aftermath, because there is like a brief aftermath comic. So it's all truncated all into one. And I make sure like I cut out all the filler and only pretty much focus on what's strong ties to the plot. Anyway, so this part, the Thanos quest, is technically an interlude a little bit before we got into the meat of the story, but I put it in first in the slide, so I'll just go through that really quick. Anyway, this of course is written by Jim Starlin, art by was this Ron Lim? Uh, Anywho, now of course if you're any way familiar with the lore around Thanos, he in the comics is obsessed with death, more specifically Lady Death, which in recent years, or at least a year ago, she was finally introduced into the MCU, played by Aubrey Plaza, who did a fantastic job. But unfortunately, she had to be introduced in an Agatha story, or a spin-off TV show, which I don't know. It's like it's fine, but still probably not really much needed of a TV show. But irregardless, as I was reading through this, I'm surprised because I always thought like the movies took away the whole obsession with death part and only leaned far into the whole, balancing out the universe. But reading through this is actually no, that is pretty much still the part of Thanos' goal. Yes, death is a part of it, but the whole imbalance thing comes from Lady Death. Of course, Thanos did attack Earth prior to this, way prior to this story. Dealing with the Avengers and Quasar and Admiral Warlock and all these, different Marvel characters. And he seemingly was defeated by being turned to stone thanks to, I believe it was Quasar, also a lesser known Marvel hero. But Lady Death and her minions revitalized Thanos because she saw an imbalance in the universe where it's just too much life. Life is pretty much flourishing in overabundance, and uh, kind of like where you look at something like deer is like, the overpopulation of deer is too much, and there needs a natural predator to kind of like, you know, uh, you know, uh, uh, I don't want to say calling, but it's just, kind of bring the numbers down a little bit. Not to the point of extinction, but just to, you know, uh, bring order to an ecosystem. So she figures Thanos is like a proper predator for this kind of situation. So she brings back Thanos. And of course, Thanos will do anything for death. He loves death. Uh, Biggest simp for death. Uh, but after seeing Aubrey Plaza, okay, I see what, I can see why. But uh, Thanos uh, realizes, okay, after looking through this Infinity Well in Death's Lair, which, by the way, really quick, that doesn't respond directly to Thanos, which always annoys Thanos because he does everything trying to get her to just show some appreciation. Is this good enough for you? Like I said, he's the biggest simp. Uh, which the way he, acts towards death, he doesn't act towards nobody else. So she speaks through proxies. Uh, but the only time death really respond to anybody, she responds to very few people. But the most notable person she actually has a conversation with is Deadpool, which annoys the hell out of Thanos to no end. Uh, uh, so he looks through the Infinity Well and comes to the conclusion that, okay, I need to do this quickly to satisfy Death's request. But in order to bring down the numbers, I need to do it efficiently. Doing it planet by planet is just, it takes, even for my type of lifespan, it still takes way too long, too much resources, too much energy, stuff that it'll take a long time just to accumulate and then go one by one to planet to planet. That's too much of a time waster. So I need something that's more efficient. So he finds, well, in the comics it's called the Soul Gems, but eventually he calls it the Affinity Gems. Not sure why the movies prefer to go with stones instead of gems. It's not like, there's a rights or anything like that they have to fight over in terms of the word gem. But whatever. I grew up calling it the Affinity Gems. Those who grew up with the MCU will probably be more comfortable with Infinity Stones, but they were known as gems, and I think in the comics today still refer to them as gems, but they tend to alternate between the word. But either way, excuse me. Oh God, sneeze. Anyway. Sorry, I was just getting over a minor cold. So, anyway, that's why there wasn't no stream yesterday. Normally, I would have done like a stream yesterday, but I was, wasn't 100%. Anyway, so Thanos went out and find who had in possession a particular gem. He finds the in-betweener who's imprisoned by this cosmic being called the, Lord of Order and Master of Chaos, or Lord of Chaos and Master of Order, uh, whatever. Lords of Order and Chaos, and the In-Betweener has possession of the Soul Stone or gem, and so not realizing, his full capabilities of trying to get out, or the Order and Chaos, put in between it in this kind of prison, but it's kind of a cushy prison, so he has still limited access to his powers. But Thanos realized this and convinced him, like, "Hey, I can let you out. I just need I just need something from you in return." But in between the things, like, because his massive power, he think he can double cross Thanos fairly easily. So he just agrees. So Thanos convinces him to, like, okay, use all your might on your end, and I'll use my might on my end, and we'll burst this cage of yours. So they use their powers, and In Betweener is free. But uh, but because he broke free, it signaled Order and Chaos, who will be upset because this was a cushy prison, but now they're gonna go even harder. No Diddy, and it's like, we was going light on you. This was like a light sentence. Now we're gonna have to put you in like solitary confinement kind of situation now. And Thanos managed to get a hold of the Soul Gem from In Betweener, while he dips off on this his little mobile chair that uh, have him traverse through space, space and time. Well, they don't know about time, but definitely traverse through space, thanks to death. So now he goes after the power gem, which is input, which this brute, I forgot what this guy's name is. Champion, who is like just loves to fight, and he thinks like just strength, all that matters, and fighting for honor and all this other stuff. So he's on this kind of battlefield, taking down this army with his bare hands, not realizing his great strength comes from the gem on his forehead, completely ignorant of it. Thanos shows up and challenges him to a fight. And of course, Thanos a little bit more strategic than somebody like this guy who doesn't rely on any type of strategy. He's pretty much just like a blunt instrument. Doesn't care for any kind of tech or strategy or stealth. None of that stuff. Thanos exploits that. So he can get this guy to just fight him while Thanos uses his gadgets and mix with strategic mind to wear this guy out, and then convinces the dude to attack him with such force. He jumps up into the air. It comes crashing down, but Thanos disappears on his chair. With this dude landing on impact and destroying the planet that they're on. So now he's floating in space. And of course, he will survive, but it'll be a mighty long time before he come across any kind of aircraft, any type of or spacecraft, or any type of planet to come pick him up. So he might just end up going insane from just drifting aimlessly. But he agrees to find a nearest planet to drop him off. In exchange, he has to give up the gem on his forehead. So the idiot agrees, And Thanos, true to his word, says, okay, he uses like a tractor beam on his chair and takes him to a nearby planet and flings him into its atmosphere. And Thanos says, look, I agreed to drop you off to a nearby planet. I never said I was going to safely put you onto the surface. So he sends dude completely, you know, uh, flying right into the atmosphere of this planet. He doesn't know nor care if this guy is able to survive the necessary impact, but he just got what he wants. So now he's in possession of soul and power. The next, he goes after the time stone, which is in possession of this guy named the Gardener. Now, of course, Thanos, there's very few people that Thanos actually respects. And the fact that the Gardener, who is an ancient being in his own right, just, decides, in lieu of his like great station in the cosmic universe, he just kind of resigned himself to essentially retire, tend to a garden and everything like that, and just live a peaceful existence. And Thanos respects it. He actually appreciates gardening himself. But he rather not. He you can tell just sincerely he'd rather not fight, but he has to do his mission. So he wants him to give him the time gem. Just give it to me, and I'll just be on my way. I'd rather not fight you, especially in this beautiful garden. Uh, so it's pretty much like battle of the minds, because he knows he can't give the time gem to this guy. So trying to combat him via, I'm not sure, it's like mind or the spiritual realm, and trying to get these plans to envelop Thanos, but Thanos is too strong. And the fact that he's in possession of two gems, he's able to overpower the guy, and he ends up dying via his own vines. Very horrific way. So he managed to get the time stone off this guy, and all the plants and fauna that he was tending grew in such magnificent heights and flourished in such a way. It was because of his control of the time gem. So a lot of them end up either dying off or reverting to a normal state. So the next thing, he ends up going to the Collector, who's in the possession of the reality gem, pretty much like in the movies. But kind of sort of like in the movies, the Collector has limited knowledge on how the reality gem works. He just sees it as a nice little piece of collection. He did try to study it, but his instruments, as Thanos puts it, is barely scratching the surface on how this works. So the Collector made a deal with Thanos. It's like, okay, give you something of equal rare of value, and I'm gladly part ways with this, no problem. And the fact that he has weapons on his ship that can easily detect him in case he tries to sneak on board or whatever. So Thanos agrees. So he ends up going off and finding this alien being. I forgot the guy's name. Blank on the guy's name, but he's able to traverse space so fast. And Thanos points out the fact that, yeah, it's only he moves as quickly as he can because he's got control of the space gem. And of course, the guy uh, doesn't realize. Normally, yeah, he's pretty fast, but the fact that he's able to go as fast as he does in such rapid succession, even before he even thinks he's already there, is because of the space stone kind of blinking him into spots here and there. And he just thinks it's super speed. Uh, but thanks to Thanos utilizing the time gem, he, rapidly ages the guy to the point where he's, because he had to rapidly age him to like a millennia. Because yeah, sure, he thinks he's immortal, but his aging only slows. He eventually will age. It'll take probably a few millennia, but thanks to the time stone, he kind of speed that up around him. So now he can just plop that space stone right off his decrepit body, and because this guy is the only kind of his existence, he presents this alien to the collector, but he didn't give him in his old form. He reversed him back to a baby form. So now it's like, oh, this is like the last of its kind. This celestial type of entity. So Collector gladly part ways with it and promises, like, no, I will not do anything to you. But never said that guy's not gonna do anything to you. So he brings the baby back to his adult form, and the guy is fully aware that the collector was about to put him in one of his collections, so he's about to like beat the heck out of the collector. So Thanos takes off with not only the space stone but the reality stone now. But the final gem is the mind gem is in possession of the Grand Master, who is the brother of the collector. While the collector is obsessed with collecting things, the Grand Master is obsessed with games. And so he made a wager with Thanos. All of his gems or his for his one gem. But his device that he, very smartly, designed in a way where if it's, breached in any kind of way outside of the agreed wager, it immediately seals and ports randomly somewhere in the cosmos that even the Grandmaster will not be fully aware it's at. So Thanos has to play the game. So they go to this kind of VR type of game where they just do battle in these little mech suits. And of course, Grandmaster isn't doesn't mind cheating if because he's a sore loser. Thinking he managed to one up Thanos. Turns out Thanos sends a robotic proxy thanks to I believe the reality stone. So now Thanos traps the Grandmaster in his own VR game, pretty much for a brief time, leaving him comatose. So now Thanos has possession of the reality stone, reality stone, soul, time. Hold on. Okay, he's now in possession of time, space, mind, and I love the art in this because they can get really freaky with the art. Uh, the imagery is amazing. Uh, Power, soul, uh, reality. Yeah, so you got power, reality, mind, time, soul, reality. All six in his possession. Now, like I said, I kind of put this quest a bit out of order because before he was revived, we had to. Uh, it all starts with the Silver Surfer, Norn Rad, the guy, and I love the look of Silver Surfer in this. He has to always look like this, in my opinion. It's just like this gleaming, just chromy coat. Uh, Matter of fact, there should be some Silver Surfer comics that I should be reviewing at some point. And fun fact, in case you might not know, Silver Surfer is Stan Lee's favorite character of all time. Uh, anyway, Silver Surfer traversing through the spaceways uh, decides to land on seemingly a desolate world just to rest up a bit. And while he's sleeping, he seemingly is dreaming. His body is still laying in the same spot it's were, so he kind of like dream walking, and he sees uh, Death's little minions reviving the spirit of Thanos. And of course, he gets his, thinking he was invisible the whole time, but they see him. So he immediately gets back to his body and is greeted by Thanos. And Thanos is seemingly trying to get Silver Surfer on his side by expressing, utilizing his little space chair to travel from planet to planet. Like first at Earth in Tokyo, trying to prove a point about the overpopulation of the universe and how bad it is because the lack of the whole resources and everything like that. They in the movies, they was thanks to the Russo brothers and the writers, they was pretty spot on taking inspiration from the Infinity Gauntlet the way they did and incorporating it in such a brilliant way. Because as you're reading it, if you haven't read it before, as you're reading it, it's pretty one to one. And Thanos expressing that, okay, it's too much here, that they have to cram themselves in these trains in order to get to a destination. And Surfer is like, but this is Tokyo. They always are like this. It's not like this everywhere on planet Earth. So Thanos takes them to another planet where these kind of like alien monkey creatures that, Thanos says there's no natural predator here. So they're able to multiply in rapid succession over here. There's no disease, there's no war, there's nothing that they actually had to fear. They know nothing but paradise, essentially. But eventually they will run into a problem because there's not much food that will handle the amount of mouths it needs to feed. And of course, he poses the radical idea of just killing half the universe of living life. That will include not only sentient beings like humans, Kree, Skrull, but also all the animal life that's on these various planets. Half of them have to go. Of course, Surfer is not with any of this. He tells him, like, screw you, I'll stop you, because there's no way I'm letting you. And this is before he got the stones, mind you. Like I said, I kind of put it a little bit out of order. But he says, I will stop you. There's no way I'm allowing you to do this. And of course, Thanos, because after they dipped off from that plan with the monkey aliens, Thanos just slyly smiles. It's like, well, you kind of already helped me with the last planet we just visited. He's like, what are you talking about? Well, while I was giving you my speech, I strategically went to those two planets for a reason. Went to planet Earth, uh, and while you was there, you pretty much, pulled in the various kind of I don't say diseases, but kind of like different types of germs and what have you that's natural on planet Earth. But then I took you to this planet that didn't have any those type of diseases here. So now, what was on Earth, these monkey aliens now are being infected with. As a matter of fact, I kind of sped up time, so now they're suffering the ill of, well, not sped up time. I'm sorry. Now that while we were gone, they're I think he did kind of sped up time a little bit. Yeah, you picked up certain germs on your person, common bacteria from the air. These germs wouldn't normally perish during your voyages from one planet to the next, but this time I teleport you directly to Solera, microscopic life harmless to you and all Earth creatures, but quite deadly to the inhabitants of Solera. The plague should be well established within the Solarian community by now. Yeah, I mean, he did manipulate time a little bit. So now Surfer zoomed back to Solera to find that a lot of the population was lying dead. And of course, he blames himself. So, thanks to his power cosmic, he managed to form a vaccine, give to one Solarian monkey alien to spread among the surviving members of his race, so that way the rest of the population can build an immunity and then flourish once again. So now he, Silver taking it upon himself to find out what he can about Thanos, so he can be able to properly deal with them. So he ends up going to Earth to meet up with Captain America and try to search through the Avengers files about Thanos and how he was defeated last time. So after he got the info that he needs, he traversing through space, and he bumps into the Impossible Man. And the Impossible Man is something akin to like Mr. Mixes Picklick in DC Comics, who's kind of like a particular, well, Mixie Spicklick is from the fifth dimension, while Impossible Man is just a unique alien creature who's able to morph his body in any kind of way, shape, or form, and kind of breaks the fourth wall too. But he's kind of like a nuisance. Of course, Silver Surfer dealt with him before, but also the Fantastic Four. And of course, the Impossible Man is fully aware, thanks, because he is kind of sort of a godly being in his own right. He already is fully aware of the whole situation with him and Surfer and Thanos. So in his own way of trying to help Surfer, because he's trying to tease Surfer to, because Surfer's really angry, and he's letting that feeling kind of overwhelm him. So an Impossible Man is pretty much trying to teach him, okay, look, you gotta lighten up. If you go in there as angry as you are, you will lose and you'll make mistakes. You have to dial it back a bit. And it's pretty much the lesson he's trying to teach him. It was very a brief little thing, but I thought I included here because kind of fun to see the Impossible Man. It's very rare we get to see him, and you see him like this is before the whole copyright crap that we had to deal with, you know, a post 2008, where back in the 80s and 90s, both DC and Marvel and Image can just make references to whatever they want without any kind of, well, it's not say everything they want, but you know, like here, they can easily make a Yoda reference before Disney kind of laid claim to Marvel. They can make a reference to Yoda without any kind of backlash. Anyway, uh, Sephiroth ends up going to the planet Titan, meeting with Thanos' father, Mentor, who uh, still regrets everything that Thanos done because he feels, you know, partially responsible. Because uh, when Thanos was born, because Thanos is kind of like the mutant on his own home world, because he was born looking different, and his mother literally tried to murder him during child, like when he was born. Of course, she was stopped, but she ends up dying thanks to a young Thanos, who slowly but surely became obsessed with the whole concept of death. So he essentially was just like just exiled from his homeworld. And of course, we also get to meet Eros, that we saw Harry Styles get to play a little bit as in the Eternals movie, which still hasn't been satisfied yet. But maybe we'll see him in Secret Wars. I don't know. We also get to see Drax the Destroyer, but not like the Dave Bautista Drax that we know and are familiar with. Drax prior to him, because when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy, uh, thanks to the MCU, the comics have rapidly changed up the personalities of the characters, some for better, some for worse. I won't say worse, but whatever. Because aside from Groot, because we get to see a little bit of Gamora at the end of all this in this story. Uh, I'll get to her and how she looks and everything like that. But uh, Drax here, you know, in the past he was like a human person that once died, was revitalized by, you know, Titan's god Kronos. I'm pretty sure that was his name. Because realizing what Thanos was, he needed like a proper uh, combatant specifically geared towards taking down Thanos. So he revitalized this dead man into this kind of like a idiot uh with, you know, crazy bulging muscles, known as Drax the Destroyer. And of course they kind of stayed true to that personality a bit with the movies, where now it's just Drax just doesn't understand sarcasm. He takes everything very literal. But back here, it turns out it looks like he was just like a bumbling idiot who's single-mindedly only understands that he must destroy Thanos, and he always will know how. I won't say necessarily know how to track him, but it's just he's so uniquely linked. He can normally track him, uh, but he can also sense when he's like truly his essence is gone, so he'll know whenever Thanos is quote unquote dead. Uh, but now that he's involved, he's following Sephiroth in order to track down Thanos so he can just kill him. But of course, Sephiroth A wants to handle it himself, and B he's such a thick-headed, single-minded brute that he can't do anything subtly or in any type of strategic way. So he decides to kind of leave Drax on Earth, distracted by Alf, the TV show from the 80s. And of course, just while we're on the subject of the how the Guardians used to be, Peter Quill wasn't like a goofy, snarky man child who's obsessed with 80s, rock music. Prior, he was like from what I remember, was a straight laced, competent leader of the Guardians. And actually, I don't even remember them always being kind of like a band of rebels who kind of like, hired, not mercenaries, but hired bounty hunters and, do everything for a payday. They weren't always like that. It's pretty much like essentially, I won't say not necessarily space cops, but pretty much Guardians. Okay, they're taking upon themselves to stop bad guys across the spaceways. Uh, Rocket Raccoon actually spoke in a Cockney accent, but Bradley Cooper doesn't have that. If you recall, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where Rocket Raccoon is one of the playable characters, he has a Cockney accent because that is true to how the comic was. So yeah, and Groot was always Groot. So after acquiring the stones, Thanos needed an army, an armada, for any type of, you know, pretty much like any type of chance of an assault or whatever. No, I think this is before he has the gloves. But he ends up here. Back in the day, Gamora wasn't considered his child. This is his grandchild or adopted grandchild or whatever. So he ends up lasering her on fire to where she's pretty much like barely clinging on to life. And she, and one of the, because he was leader of this band of space pirates or what have you, which Thanos abruptly kind of took over the massive fleets. So he can have some type of army, not unlike the movies. Even despite his gloves, having the glove and the stones, he still had like people fighting for him. So after Sephiroth finally tracks down Thanos by utilizing, because thanks to the cosmic chair that he's in, he zips around so fast, almost in like a blink of an eye. He can't track it normally, so he actually really pushed his powers to his very limits. Despite his massive power, he's one of the most powerful characters in Marvel Comics. But even then, he has to like really focus in order to be able to follow the trail of Thanos' chair, which leads to a planet where it pretty much Thanos kind of devastates. And these two end up fighting, and Sephiroth seemingly able to kill Thanos, pretty much turning him into just a skeleton. So he takes the body to his father, the fake body to his father, thinking like, "Oh, it's done." I'm not pleased with myself. Well, Thanos, yeah, this is like I said, this is prior to the whole Thanos quest. Thanos couldn't have Surfer interrupted him while he's on his quest to try to collect the stones. So he knows it's not going to last long, but he needs him distracted long enough to get him off his trail while he goes to find the stones. So while Surfer is taking the body to Mentor and Eros, Drax immediately picks up the fact that he's not dead. And of course, he can't. He's kind of stupid, so he can't really communicate. Oh, he just pretty much saying like, no, Thanos still lives. So upon further examination, they realized that I think thanks to the chair, Thanos created uh, uh, a skeleton, but it's a fake skeleton. Inside is kind of like cybernetics. So it was enough to fool them long enough. So now they don't know what he's exactly up to and where they can find him. And of course, after Thanos collected the stones, he pretty much using it to spy on them and then take Surfer and Drax, knowing those two will pose like a massive problem for him, and trap their essence inside the Soul Stone. And they try to fight valiantly, but it's to no avail. They, despite their massive power in their own right, pales in comparison to the power of the Infinity Gems. So after trapping them, Thanos goes back to his armada, kills the guy who, despite his respect for his loyalty, it should be loyalty to him, though. So he kills the guy who's trying to revive Gamora, not Gamora, Nebula, to try to revive Nebula. So, uh, so thanks to the Infinity Gems, he tried to appease death. He puts Nebula in a state between life and death, where she's kind of like, kind of sort of mindless. She just doesn't know where she is or what's happening, let's say, around her. She's just there. It's kind of like, a walking comatose patient. Then Thanos is greeted by Mephisto, who is always looking for an opportunity to seize power, and disrupt things. Surfer often come into conflict with Mephisto. Matter of fact, many Marvel heroes ultimately ends up coming across Mephisto in one way or another. Most notably is Ghost Rider and Silver Surfer, but Spider-Man dealt with them obviously in the whole One More Day situation. Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange dealt with him on a couple of occasions, but yeah, he pops up on Thanos, and Thanos ain't got time for his mess because he can easily deal with Mephisto, despite Mephisto's massive power in his own right. Decides like play along with like, oh, like I see your true power, Thanos. It's like I offer my services to you and blah blah blah. Of course, Thanos is like, like fine, I can always use another lackey, but I know you tried. I know you're gonna try to usurp my power with some shape or form, try to get the stones for yourself. I'm watching you. Don't try anything funny. Because, Thanos ain't one to be tricked as easily. Especially somebody like Mephisto will have a hard time trying to. But Mephisto will have to put all the stops in order to pull off a convincing ruse, as he will soon do. Because, matter of fact, Mephisto actually has a hand in stopping Thanos little by little, in very subtle ways. So, here's Gamora. I do you one better, though. Why is Gamora? So, Gamora and Pip the Troll is trapped inside the Soul Stone along with Adam Warlock. And uh and he's the only person who has a way for him and Drax in order to get out. And of course, Drax somehow still retain his own power. I guess because he, is too dim-witted to realize that inside a soul gem, their powers are pretty much kind of like nullified. So while Gamora is distracting Drax in like a fight, at least long enough for Pip the Troll and Zephyr to get a hold of Adam Warlock. And we get a little bit of a brief origin story with Adam Warlock, who was a human that was experimented on by like AIM scientists, I think. But then to try to make the perfect being. But then he ends up going to space and then meeting with the high evolutionary. He got his little fancy little clothes, everything like that. He has his own little tales of adventure with different Marvel heroes and space characters and what have you. But eventually, he ends up in the Soul Stone. As a matter of fact, he's so tied to the Soul Stone. That's pretty much most people's just surface level understanding of Adam Warlock prior to Guardians 3. Which is kind of weird given the fact that in the MCU, they took so long with bringing up Adam Warlock because they pretty much set him up in Guardians 2. And given the fact that how integral he was in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, we half expected it for him to show up, if not Infinity War, definitely Endgame. But that didn't turn out that way. But it's kind of weird. It's one of those kind of minor complaints as comic book fans. Is like, there's like, I don't want to spoil it here, but Nebula has like a big piece to do in the Infinity Gauntlet comic where we don't see her necessarily do the exact same thing. She's still a crucial part in the movies, but not in the same degree as we want her to be from the story. Or at least the comic. But whatever. Okay. We're like halfway through now. Because we're coming on to the meat of the story at this point. All right. All right. Let me do like a brief intermission, guys, and get me like a snack. There's a lot to go through, so I'm gonna be really quick. Okay. So, 1 second. All right. Had to stretch my legs too. So anyway, so thanks to Adam Warlock using his power to um, get Surfer and Drax out of there. After, of course, a brief dialogue, I was like, "Hey, how come you never gotten out of here? The Soul Stone." It's, explains that uh, if I try to get out of here, Thanos will recognize me because he will eventually turn inward on the Soul Stone because I have full control over here in this kind of realm. It's pretty much his own pocket universe in of itself. But his mind is pretty much focused on the regular uh, 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 real world, real reality stuff. Right now, if I make a move outside, uh, he will recognize me. So I gotta, so I can't just freely just do it. Because Adam Warlock, has a massive plan in order to, because he picks up pretty quickly of what was going on with Thanos, and he has to maneuver certain things in a particular way in order to stop Thanos. It's pretty much similar to Doctor Strange in the movies where he kind of plays the role of Adam Warlock, where seeing through 14 million different possibilities, he only sees one where they win. So he has to move in a particular way and cannot feed people information. Otherwise, it will kind of disrupt everything if they know what was going on. They got to allow things. Kind of like where he says, like, if I tell you what's going to happen, it's not going to happen. So, so after calming down Drax, who's pretty much like just a rampaging idiot, where in every drawing. Every time he fights, it always seems like he getting bulkier and bulkier in a cartoonish kind of way. Uh, but after calming him down, uh, Warlock sends both of them outside back into their bodies. Long after Thanos kind of dipped off. So as they return to their bodies, they are immediately greeted by Mephisto, who tells them about Thanos and what he's done, and with acquiring the stones, and he's kind of playing around with, or at least testing it, in order to master the use of the stones. Because eventually, once he does, he will do what he's planning on doing. He says he's gonna utilize those stones to wipe out half the universe. And of course, uh, Mephisto, isn't doing it out of kind of his own heart. He obviously has aspirations of getting the stones for himself, but he has to play his part kind of strategically. Uh, of course, there's a moment where Surfer goes to meet up with Galactus because a while ago, Thanos brings up the fact that he looked through the Surfer's soul using the Soul Gem, notices that your essence kind of been tempered with, and it wasn't by me. So there's only one other person who's had the capability of doing something like that to you. You probably should see your own master again. And Surfer thinks this is something he's just messing with his mind, but he goes to Galactus, and Galactus confirms, like, yeah, when I met you at Zenla and you agreed to be my herald, I knew that it just kind of explains as to why, like, you see in certain movies or old comics and certain TV shows, as to how could he be so callous of going to these planets at first with inhabited people. But of course, after a while, after his experience with Alicia Masters and the Fantastic Four, he had a change of heart about what he was doing. But here, it kind of clears up the fact that once he bestowed the power cosmic to Norrin Rad, he also made sure that he kind of nullified his kind of that, I won't say empathy, but the worry of regret or things of that sort. It's like on the request of the Surfer, that Galactus gives Norrin Rad, removes that little manipulation from Norrin Rad's spirit. So now he's pretty much drowning in his regret and his despair. The fact that he caused massive, or at least a while, massive amounts of death and destruction when he was the herald of Galactus. But I thought I'd bring it up here. Is I won't say it's irrelevant, but it's kind of the Surfer's little arc he's going through in this little interlude to the Infinity Gauntlet. So Surfer decides that he needs to make his way to Earth to warn the heroes about what's going on. After he leaves, Thanos, who's been keeping like a watchful eye, Galactus immediately picks up on him. Like, I know you watching me. Just show yourself. I don't have time for this. And of course, Thanos shows up saying, like, look, please don't interfere with my plans, because I will take you out. And of course, Galactus doesn't like threats, but he's too preoccupied of feeding on planets. He doesn't really care about anything but his own hunger. But as long as Thanos don't interfere, like, he can't really be bothered, doesn't care about what's transpired because it doesn't concern him. So, on his way to Earth, he gets Surfer gets uh, interrupted by Thanos, who pretty much, you know, get inside his mind and see, a brief of his origin. We see Zenla and how much Norrin looked up to his father, and the fact that he lost his mom at a young age because she deleted herself in a way. Because despite Norrin's father's concern, the planet Zenla was pretty much like a perfect utopia. It's kind of the way where how like the people's worry about AI robots taking over a lot of jobs and where it's to leave us. And to some people's thoughts, it's like, oh, it's free to allow us to do, creative stuff and, without, breaking our bodies in this menial task and blah, blah, blah. But we see here with Zenla, and I can't help but look at the comparison where it's whereas Norrin's father's concern is the fact that we have no aspirations. We can't strive nobody wants to strive for anything anymore. Nobody wants to work at certain things. Things are just so easily handed to us. It's kind of making us apathetic and lazy. And some people turn to drugs and is the unalive rate is pretty high on Zenla because it's like we take away that kind of work ethic and drive and ambition from people. It's not good for, or it's not good. It's not healthy for the human race, or at least the Zenla race, or at least any race. They need that kind of drive. You take that away from them, it's kind of like, yeah, give them nothing but pleasure. It's like it's very like sad in a way. So his father's pretty much being ostracized from society because of his radical viewpoints, which ultimately he gets shunned by even his own son, who kind of drunk the Kool-Aid of Zenla and its beliefs. And then Shalabal comes to him with the regretful news about his father, and of course, he feels sad, but he maintains focus on of his work, and it's just like it broke him in a way. But then it kind of leads to him meeting Galactus and saving his planet that his father really loved and want better for his people. He refused to allow it to succumb to destruction because it will all been just for nothing. So, despite this little horror down memory lane and pretty much Thanos kind of tormenting him and using this kind of rock proxy of his, he, Norrin Rad just blasted it to pieces, not allowing it to reassemble when it's atomized. So, through like the physical, mental, spiritual anguish that Surf has been going through in these past like days, Surfer makes his way to Earth and just collides in the home of Doctor Strange and crashes through. Because in the movie it was Hulk. Here is Silver Surfer. But the same words is uttered as in the movies as Thanos and Wong approach the Surfer, who they're friends with, and Surfer just shouts, "Thanos is coming! Thanos is coming! We need to prepare." And of course, You know, uh, they trying to get him onto his feet and to the couch, trying to get him to explain what's going on, and he explains about how he collected the gems and what he's planning on doing with it. And while that is carrying on, Thanos utilizing the gauntlet to bring Lady Death and showing her this kind of like a giant floating fortress in space as like a monument to her greatness, with two thrones for her and Thanos. But the Death's proxy explains to Thanos is that now that you acquire the gauntlet, now you're above her, so she doesn't feel that she is deserving of communing with you. Where before he was below her, so she didn't feel no reason to commune with him directly, which is kind of like a sleazy thing for Lady Death. She's just kind of toying with this dude, knowing full well that you know how he feels about her, but she could have just like be done with the entire thing and just explain something like, I I don't like you that way, and should have even used this guy, but she was using Thanos. Let's be real, because she needed somebody of his stature in order to do what she requires and kind of like bringing down the population a bit, because life is flourishing way too much. Uh, but man, she could have chose somebody else that didn't have grand ambitions like Thanos, because she was keeping a watchful eye on the fact that he was collecting these stones, and you don't think that wasn't going to go to his head. Unbelievable. So, thanks to Mephisto kind of egging things on, and he explains to Thanos like, maybe she ain't speaking to you directly is because you still have not did what she asked. And it's like, of course, that's why you won't commune with me. Like, I have not did my job that you tasked me to do, so I will do it now. And Mephisto is kind of stunned because, like, oh my god, you actually gonna do it? And just like you saw in the movie, Thanos, utilizing the gauntlet, snaps his fingers and proceeds to wipe out half of life in the universe. That fateful moment, and this is one of those fateful moments in comic book history, that he utilizes the glove and snaps half away life. And this one's gonna get kind of raw here, so we're gonna slightly speed through this. Like, holy crap! Even like somebody like Mephisto was stunned at the fact that, wow, you actually gonna do it. I didn't think you was actually got the balls, but you forgot who you're talking to, dude. So, just 1 second here. We'll be going through like different points of view of certain heroes and their experience with like what's going on. Because first is Spider-Man, which we gotta see how, like, from the street levels on to the cosmic level, how it's affecting everybody in certain ways. And of course, it has to be Spider-Man, because if it hits home for Spider-Man, it's really serious to the readers. So Spider-Man swinging through the city after stopping the mugging, his spider sense is just going berserk. Louder than anything he's ever experienced. He had to, rest on a rooftop before he ends up accidentally falling from falling from a building mid swing. And then he's looking around, and like everybody's watching, news reports on TVs and what have you, and uh it's like people are alerting that people are disappearing randomly, and before Spider-Man and other people's eyes, people are starting disappearing right there on the street. Some ladies lost their baby right in there. It's just like, and then of course it starts to click for Spider-Man. He immediately starts swinging back home, screaming, "Mary Jane!" It's like he dips. We go to Captain America, the Avengers, Avengers little mansion, and then Cersei from the Eternals, but I don't think it was kind of established back in the day. But it's the same Cersei from the Eternals, and Hawkeye disappear in front of Captain America's eyes. And Cap doesn't know what the heck is going on, and he's getting alerts popping up on the machine. Nick Fury and Allegra de Fontaine, or Elaine Bennis, who has a thing for Nick Fury, getting reports from the president and other nations that they're experiencing, population decline at a rapid pace. And even Nick Fury explains that, yeah, he's experiencing it too. Half of his staff has randomly started disappearing, so he doesn't know what the heck's going on either. So he's trying to figure things out. Even Wong, right in front of Doctor Strange's eye, because it's kind of flipped from the movie, because in the movie, Doctor Strange disappeared and Wong stayed. But here, Wong disappeared in front of Doctor Strange's eyes, and he's Sephiroth kind of sensing, using his power cosmic senses what's going on. He did it. Oh my God, he's actually did it. He everybody's dying, like all across the cosmos. Matter of fact, even like half the Kree, half the Skrulls, they're experiencing half of their population, and of course, true to their fashion, they end up blaming each other. They have no clue about what is going on and what Thanos did. They didn't know Thanos is even like the culprit. Right on Titan, Mentok disappeared. Matter of fact, Thanos made sure he specifically make sure he's one of the people that disappeared, because he doesn't like his father at all. But so after Eros bringing in Firelord, who was also the a herald of Galactus at one point, so trying to figure out a way to find Thanos, but then they Mentok immediately disappear in front of everybody. And then a little bit of an interlude here. While this was transpiring, the spirits of Gamora, Pip the Troll, and Adam Warlock from the Soul Stone slip into the recently dead bodies of 3 criminals that kind of crashed that car, and embody them until the human bodies kind of morphed into their true forms eventually over time. But then while they're trying to get used to the Earth's surroundings before they to get Adam Warlock time to get ready so they can complete their mission, Gamora immediately disappears in front of Pip the Troll's eyes. And of course, Adam Warlock is in his little cocoon, so he's trying to kind of revitalize himself. So he is, I'm pretty sure he's aware, but he can't do anything about it until he's kind of at 100%. But I'm pretty sure this is part of his plan. I'm pretty sure he's fully aware that Thanos would do this, but I don't know. It's hard to say if he knew that he was going to commit to snapping his fingers and wipe off half of life. But I'm pretty sure I assumed he probably thought he had time before he actually go through with it. But in any case, so Dr. Doom, we see him, half of Laverians are disappearing, and Doom is pretty much using his machines to track like power disturbances and one popping up at Doctor Strange's homestead. So Doom ends up showing up at the Sanctum Sanctorum trying to figure out what's happened. And of course, lo and behold, Doom will try to, you know, find out what power did this and try to seize it for himself. And then, of course, back with Thanos, he utilized the Gauntlet to teleport Eros from Titan to him, and so his brother can see what he's going to do. Eventually, he brings in even Nebula to show off, mostly to show off in front of Lady Death. He pulls a Agent Smith on Eros and wipe off Eros's mouth because he always trying to do some kind of slick talk because he kind of has like kind of ability to convince people via kind of like emotions and things like, because he's a bit of a player. He gets with a lot of women, but he ain't trying to be fooled by that. So he kind of took away, and this is way before even the Matrix, but you get the reference. He took away Eros's mouth, so he can't really use his skills like that. And of course, you know, he will eventually start torturing Nebula and Eros just for funsies. So Thanos is like pretty much enjoying life right now. So back on Earth, what's left of the Marvel heroes, they hold like a meeting to explain who they all the heroes that were lost. And of course, the Fantastic Four is missing. Some of the X-Men, like Angel, Beast, Black Cat is missing. Black Panther is missing. Not sure who that guy is, honestly. I'm pretty sure there's some people who know a box. Dagger from Cloak and Dagger. Cloak survived, but Dagger disappeared. Daredevil disappeared. Diamond, I'm pretty sure this is Jessica Jones before we know her to be Jessica Jones. He went by Diamond or something like that before. Firestar, Guardian, Hawkeye, Hercules, Iceman, Marksman, Marvel Boy. I'm not sure who Marvel Boy is. Jean Grey, Night Thrasher, Power Man or Luke Cage, North Star, Puck, Quicksilver, Sasquatch, Cersei, Shaman, U.S. Agent, Wasp, call the people I don't recognize. I think this guy is part of the what was that Canadian super team? I'm blanking on it. Wolverine was part of it before. You guys know what I'm talking about if you're familiar. So now it's kind of like a red alert that all the heroes are trying to, available heroes have to come in to deal with the crisis because, you know, the city is just like in a turmoil, and various cities with various heroes have to contend with all these different devastating things. People who are manning certain stuff like aircrafts or boats or what have you have all had to respond to that because people are disappearing who is manning certain things that will crash or fall apart or whatever. So it's a lot. Matter of fact, what Thanos did was so devastating. Even like a lot of mythological gods are taking notice, like Odin, who's pretty much like the leader of this. Zeus, it's some mana from the Mayan god, Osiris of Egypt, the Celtic god Nuda, Mayoto, an American Indian spirit, Savrog of Russia, Tezcatlipoca, the Aztec deity. Ironically, there's no Conchu, even though we see briefly Moon Knight in this, who uh, have to watch on like a rooftop and seeing like part of the city starting to burn because it was like so much devastating crap happening around him. And of course, I only mention these guys briefly because even though they are trying to like see if they can step in and figure out what's going on, that they'll end up going back to Asgard because Asgard is feeling even Asgard is feeling the devastating effects of half of its population disappearing. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised none of them go back to their respective lands to deal with, you know, their population decline. But I only mention here briefly here because they don't really do much. So this is the part where I see, tell you that Thanos pretty much like torturing Eros and Nebula, doing it in a similar fashion as we saw in the movie where he turned Drax into cubes and Mantis into ribbons. Oh, speaking of about how they changed the Guardians from what they previously were to the goofy version that we know them now. Mantis technically was human, but then got experimented on and with some kind of alien kind of thing, and then she become like a kind of like a spacefarer. But now she was always been alien now, but that wasn't always the case. I just thought I'd bring that up. They changed a lot of stuff with Guardian characters. So, uh, of course, Death still spurning Thanos' advances. Back on Earth, after Thanos kind of last out, he leaves. He did like a kind of like a big tidal wave of energy that devastated different planets, and Earth, feeling the shockwave, see a lot of earthquakes happening, and buildings are toppling over. Black Widow, Wolverine, Cloak, they have having to save as much people as they can, but they can't save everybody because it's too much, even for the what's left of the heroes. So Adam Warlock goes to Doctor Strange, and Doom's already showed up and lets them know what's transpiring, and decides, okay, we need to gather all of Earth's available heroes so we can pretty much launch uh, a full scale kind of attack on Thanos. And of course, some like Cloak are feeling like you know a little trepidatious about it because like someone that powerful who do something on this kind of scale, what hope do we have? And none whatsoever. Matter of fact, this that is also part of uh, Adam's plan, but he's not letting anybody know. And Sever only gets spoon fed certain things. Matter of fact, it becomes so much where Adam ends up taking the Sephir, and they all come meet up with the uh, cosmic entities, uh, like the Watcher, uh, Eternity, uh, the Master of Order and Chaos, the Living Tribunal, the Stranger, uh, the embodiment of love and hate, Galactus, two Celestials, and of course Quasar and his uh, 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 forgot this little green plant thing with Quasar is, but they all show up just to at least try Warlock tries to get them to work with him in order to put a stop to. Oh, and Kronos here in the center uh, tries to get them to help with dealing with Thanos because his he's a mad titan with the power of a god with those stones, and he will uh, threaten all of reality, and they will probably have more of a chance to do something about it. But of course, the Watcher, he says like he can't interfere because he's only meant to watch, despite his concerns. Uh, uh, yeah, so the Watcher, Eternity, and oh no, not Galactus. It was somebody else. Uh, oh, the Living Tribunal. Uh, no, was it Living? Uh, maybe I can't remember. It's like a third person. It's either Galactus or the Living Tribunal. I'm pretty sure it's the Living Tribunal because I know Watcher and Eternity they dipped off because they didn't figure it's their problem. Well, Eternity doesn't feel like it's his problem, and Watcher only is required to watch. He can't do any. He can't interfere. And Thanos, so tired of getting shunned by death, decides he's gonna make her jealous. So he uses the stones to make a perfect partner for him, a female Thanos in a way, Taraxia, who's just so in love with Thanos, and of course he's just trying to make her jealous, like make her jealous, like, oh, look how she loves me, aren't you jealous? And she does not care whatsoever. Doesn't even turn his way, which still kind of infuriates him. Okay. So, while Warlock and Zephyr is dealing with trying to get some celestial beings on their side, uh, the heroes are sent to uh, do a full scale attack against Thanos. But Thanos really wasn't tripping. As soon as they showed, they frozen in mid place. Hmm. And of course, being ever the trickster, Mephisto convinces them, like, you know, maybe this will also please, maybe this will please Lady Death because you're so powerful. She wants to see you actually, put in some effort. So he convinces Thanos to temper his powers a bit just to give these heroes like a bit of a fighting chance. So I was like, okay, fine. Like I have no problem with that. I got time to kill. So this one's get kind of, it was like a hard read, but before I get into it, 1 second here. Sorry about that. Like a bathroom break. Anyway, so we're really gonna get like the meat of it now, because while the heroes are trying to darnest to deal with Thanos, even minimizing his power a bit still is inconsequential. Still doesn't mean jack crap. Still doesn't mean jack crap. So he put in some kind of moss thing on Namor and She-Hulk, which covers them up, smothers them to death. Thanos and Thor, but not the Thor that we know. This is Eric Masterson, who for a brief period had like a power of Thor, but only whenever he's holding on to Mjolnir, where regular Thor is seemingly dead around this point in time. So Thanos, of course, knocks him away, leaving his but he's just barely alive thanks to his advanced in cybernetics and master of magic. He's just barely, scraping by. Of course, Drax and Hulk tries to dogpile on him, but he knocks them away. He tosses Wolverine tries to stab him to death. Of course, he then proceeds to utilize his power to turn the adamantium skeleton into rubber. So, Wolverine's pretty much out of commission. He destroys Vision. He kills Scarlet Witch. He puts like a airtight, cube thing around Cyclops' head, so he suffocates to death. Eric Masterson is trying to get the hammer before he suffocates to death, because if he's away from the hammer too long, he reverts back to his human form. Firelord and Drax get sent back in time to Earth's prehistoric time, so they're pretty much taken out of the commission. Iron Man gets his head ripped off by Taraxia, which is kind of gruesome, and she ends up beating Spider-Man to death with a rock. Thanos vaporizes Quasar to death, so now the only person left is Captain America, and true blue to Captain America's personality. Just like in the movie, he steps up to Thanos unflinchingly. Even despite him getting the shield torn asunder, the indestructible shield torn asunder thanks to Thanos. While just far enough away to not alert Thanos, Surfer and Warlock is lying in wait for the proper moment to send Surfer to see if he can just seize the gauntlet just in the brief window that they can, given the Surfer's speed. He can just snatch that up. Of course, it doesn't work. Now, if you're wondering where Doctor Strange is all this, where is he in all this? He's still back on Earth, keeping because he pulls them all to the location where the battle is going to take place. So he's in charge of any survivors. He immediately brings them back home. So yeah, Surfer fails to seize the gauntlet, but Warlock anticipates this. He's not really all that too worried. That's when it was the Living Tribunal. That's when all the cosmic beings, aside from Living Tribunal, Eternity, and the Watcher, they all show up to put an end to Thanos' craziness. However, they made the mistake of trying to attack him one at a time, which each of them failed. As a matter of fact, the fight was so devastating that uh, the platform they was on could get totally devastated, where uh, Lady Death saves Nebula and Eros from being utterly destroyed. For her own personal reasons, he decides to save them. Of course, Warlock and Cypher managed to survive, but there's the this universe is feeling the ramifications of this galactic fight. As a matter of fact, Earth is going through its own little uh, 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 winter. I don't want to call it nuclear winter, but it's kind of like the alternating its axis. Now is it going through like this massive winter, and then Annihilus from the negative zone comes popping in, figures like sees the opportunity now to take over, since the Fantastic Four is not there to pretty much stop his machinations. The Celestials, they try to throw planets at this guy, and that didn't work. Kronos tried to throw him through countless different points in time, that didn't work. Order and Chaos tried to split him apart, that didn't work. Love and Hate tries to mess with his emotions, that didn't work. But, well, you might see this as like uh well, you can see this in one of two things. Mephisto then jumps in and try to, while seemingly he is distracted, he's trying to take the gauntlet off of Thanos. Now, some might argue he might do this because even Mephisto thinks this guy is pretty much is like a threat to all reality, including his own. So he's trying to seize the gauntlet. But most people will understand, like, yeah, he's taking an opportunity for selfish reasons because he wants to think for his own reasons. But Thanos, pretty much like backhands Mephisto because he knew like Mephisto at some point was going to try to take the opportunity to get the gauntlet for himself. But I mean, maybe it's just me and my sensibilities. But even I deep down, at least at some part of me, like to think that Mephisto, even he will realize this guy's a threat to everybody, and he needs to get this thing off his freaking hand because it's getting crazier and crazier with godly power. But then Thanos, even like Lady Death steps in. You see her like coming in along with all these other cosmic beings trying to put a stop to Thanos. But Thanos, thanks to his gauntlet, he is not, he's still a force to be reckoned with. So he puts them all in like a suspended animation as like essentially like trophies in a way. But then Eternity eventually shows up. And despite Eternity's level of power, it's like a great way to show up at the tail end of things, dude. But they do battle, but even the Eternity end up losing, and Thanos usurps Eternity. But this is still part of Warlock's plan. because his time spent in the Soul Stone, he managed to be, and his years of fighting Thanos, he managed to acquire like an understanding of Thanos on like a in a way that most others don't. It's kind of like how Superman deals with Batman, or Superman deals with Lex Luthor, or Batman deals with Joker, or Spider-Man deals with Green Goblin. They deal with each other so much they pretty much know each other on more of like a more than any level that their significant other probably would understand. But since he left his body unprotected as he took over as Eternity, Nebula, who by and large everybody thought had no concept of what's going on, she was still fully aware, and she was able to grab hold of the gauntlet right off Thanos' hand and wield it. This is what people was kind of half expecting to happen in the MCU in Endgame, but it didn't turn out that way. It would have been cool. Nebula still had her role in Endgame, but it would have been dope to see her wield the gauntlet to fix everything. But Nebula, who who I think I like this version of Nebula than the one we get with, because in the comics they try to make it too much like the MCU, and in my personal opinion, I think there need to be some level of separation between what the movies have and what the comics should have. Um, so Nebula, fixed herself up, blinks Thanos and Taraxia in deep space where she suffocates and he's still floating aimlessly. So and she sends everybody else, back on Earth. So gathering what little of heroes they got left, like Drax, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Surfer, Adam Warlock goes to retrieve. They go to retrieve Thanos because now that Nebula has the gauntlet, we need his help in order to try to figure out a way to get it off of her before she let that power corrupt her like it did Thanos. So they go there, and while Adam Warlock is using his power, or I think Doctor Strange has like a hand in it as well, trying to cloak himself to not be noticed by Nebula and have Thanos kind of distract her and put all her focus into him so he can slip that gauntlet off of her hand. Of course, while this is carrying on, she then, just to tick Thanos off, she resets things back to where it was 24 hours ago. So everything that Thanos messed up is restored, and only a few of the heroes are fully aware of what transpired, and others, for the most part, might have like an inkling of something that might happen but don't fully understand. So Earth is back to normal, the people are restored, heroes are restored. So Thanos is hating life right now. So but they end up failing of getting the gauntlet off her hands, but the cosmic beings all show back up to get that gauntlet off of her hands. So she ends up turning them into like statues. But thanks to Doctor Strange, they managed to get the gauntlet off of her hand. It slips, and now everybody's pretty much trying to dogpile on top of this thing, trying to keep Thanos and Nebula pretty much off the gauntlet. So it's freaking hilarious. You got like Eros, Nebula, Thanos Eric Masterson, Hulk, and uh, Drax, all dogpiling and fighting each other. But it was Adam Warlock who manages to get the gauntlet. Thanos starts to blow himself up with everybody else there, but uh, Thor, fake Thor, throws his hammer into him, and he sends him hurling into space, where he seemingly blows up and dies. So Warlock sends Hulk, Eros, and Drax and Nebula to their respective homes, leaving Thor, Silver Surfer, and Doctor Strange with them. And of course, they're struggling with the comfortability of Adam Warlock holding the Infinity Gauntlet, but he assures them that he has the capability of wielding this properly for all the right reasons and not the way like Thanos would. So he ends up sending them home. But then he, along with Pip the Troll and Gamora, who shows back up now, and Adam Warlock needs counsel in order to see how he can properly wield it without, being corrupted by it. So he goes to Farmer Thanos, who pretty much retired, didn't seemingly blow up, and he asks pretty much for advice. And Thanos tells him either endure or surrender. Either endure or surrender the power. So he chose to endure it. So now we go to the Infinity Gauntlet aftermath, and this is just going to be pretty brief. So Pip the Troll and Gamora ends up going to Earth to try to get the help of Doctor Strange, because they're worried about Adam Warlock, because he is slowly but surely seemingly, not being himself, and they're worried about the gems corrupting him. So Doctor Strange gathers some artifacts and go meet up with Warlock, who explains to Strange that he's going to plan on removing pretty much like evil and like all the negative base emotions sentient beings have, so we can have like true peace. And Doctor Strange explains to Adam like, you cannot do that, because that you also remove any type of uniqueness. It's just kind of like trying to remove evil in the world. And if you saw like I'm pretty sure there's like a Rick and Morty episode about this, but it's just you can't remove those kind of things, because those things, despite you can use them in like a positive way, they don't. It's like trying to remove anger. Anger can be used in positive ways. It's just not being overtaken by it, but it is needed. So utilizing these artifacts, he combats Adam Warlock, one of his stones against one of his artifacts. Like when he's trying to use the Mind Stone on him, he trying to convince Strange that he could have lived like a life without the whole accident thing, but he, thanks to the Eye of Agamotto, is like, no, that's not the truth. Like, thanks to me becoming Sorcerer Supreme, I managed to save tons of lives from all different sorts of threats, like Mephisto, Dormammu, Doctor Doom, etc. So he shows Adam Warlock what life would look like if he removes all that stuff and sees like at least, like let me make sure I don't mince words here. He sees how his own triumph, countless billions of sentient beings of will, of choice, of everything that is truly more than animal, both on Earth and elsewhere, throughout the nebulas and galaxies. If this result is truly what Warlock wants, but somehow judging by the chance coming over his face, I don't think it is. Uh, yeah, he's like it's just left apathetic. Sentient beings would just be, you know, might as well just be robots. There's no uniqueness, nothing. You gotta leave things in proper balance. So this puts Adam, back to, give him, bring some sense back to him. Uh, so last slide. uh, Adam is then being brought on trial by uh, these council of cosmic beings, and Eternity is accusing him of doing like might end up doing the exact same thing as Thanos, wielding the gauntlet for nefarious reasons. At some point, being like a threat to all of the cosmos. But Warlock managed to convince the Living Tribunal, who's the ultimate judge, that he won't turn out that way. Matter of fact, he's planning on giving up the power anyway. So, only thing he requests is allowing him to choose how he will deal with it, so it won't be a threat to the cosmos again. Which, of course, eventually, years later will become like a situation, but for the time being, it's not like a pose another threat. So the Living Tribunal sees this and it's like agrees. Okay, as long as you do what you say, I don't see no reason why we need to do anything to you. Despite Eternity's little protests. So he ends up using the gauntlet to peer into the souls and minds of Moondragon, Gamora, Drax, and Pip the Troll. And he sees that, okay, I can trust them to not only protect these things, but also not utilize, doesn't have the exact knowledge how to utilize them effectively to be like a serious threat. So he gives the Space Stone to Pip the Troll, the Power Stone to Drax, Moondragon gets the Mind Stone, Gamora gets the Time Stone, and he keeps the Soul Stone since he's more intimate with it anyway. But he leaves the Reality Stone in a safekeeping of somebody that he will not disclose. So that way, less people know, the better. So, Adam Warlock decides to go off on his own. Everybody else go off on their own, and that's pretty much the end of the Infinity Gauntlet. Whew, God, that was a lot. Probably still not as large of a video as the, I think the Spider-Verse comic event is probably like my longest running comic book review that I did on the channel. There might be another one that comes pretty close, but this one, oh my God, this is pretty close. But yeah, that was pretty much the Infinity Gauntlet. And just, this is a great read. It was a lot. There was still some filler stuff that I had to ignore, But I want to make sure I still include the aftermath to see what happened with Adam Warlock and what he did with the Gauntlet. And I want to make sure I fit that in, so in case those might have questions, I can fill you in. So it's in. That's usually how people end up dealing with the stones, either giving it to in safekeeping to certain individuals or hiding in certain places only certain individuals would know, just to avoid it coming these gems coming together and somebody misusing them. But yeah, that was the Infinity Gauntlet. It was a hell of a read, man. I enjoyed it. The one is one of the most uh, recognized and beloved comic stories of all time. It's really good. And like I said, there's some filler stuff, but it's focused on uh, the aftermath with Adam Warlock and his dealing with Doctor Strange and his judgment by the cosmic energies and distributing the stones, the Gauntlet story points, and Thanos quests. And there is some stuff with the interlude with the Silver Surfer, but I think that's part of the omnibus of the Infinity Gauntlet. Those are pretty much like the main, at least for me, my main focus, because there's other stuff like Spider-Man and Moon Knight and things of that sort. And I think like the Hulk, it's just like all that stuff is filler that doesn't really feel. I personally feel like I need to include into this review. It didn't really add much. It just seemed like what they were doing during this period of the Gauntlet of fiasco. But in any case, let me know what you guys think of the Infinity Gauntlet, and if you read it before, what was your likes and dislikes? I really love the art in this. It's like the pencil shading and just the color palettes. Is just, I love this art. Anyway, I will see you guys soon because I will be reviewing the movie that I wanted to do yesterday, but I wasn't feeling up to it. But it will be the Disney movie Angels in the Outfield. So I'll see you guys in a little bit as I review that. So besides that, I will see you guys later. Take care.